Here we're going to be talking about the common mistakes that we see with PEMDAS. So PEMDAS is just an acronym that helps us figure out how to do any sort of problem, any sort of evaluating or simplifying problem where you have to follow order of operations. And that's really what this is saying. We're going to do the grouping symbols first, the parentheses. We'll see that actually it's not just parentheses, but we'll talk about that. Then we do exponents. Multiplication and division here are clumped together because we actually do both of those at the same time. We'll just work left to right if it's just those two. And same kind of thing with addition and subtraction. We just work left to right if it's just those two. Alright, so the easiest thing here is just to work through practice. The best way to get better at math skills, especially like PEMDAS, is just to practice it and try it on your own. So really, what I would advise that you do is try each problem before I go over it, and then check to see if you did it correctly. I'll show all the steps, I'll explain it if you need help. I would definitely recommend that you try it on your own before just copying down exactly what I'm saying in writing. So the first thing I want to do on number one is really just look at the operations. Here we have a minus sign, that's subtraction. We have division, we have addition, and multiplication. So I just want to use this as a checklist. I don't see any grouping symbols, I don't see any exponents. I do see multiplication and division. I have both of those. Make sure you work from left to right. On this one it doesn't make as much of a difference, but make sure when you just have division and multiplication, you actually go from left to right. So I'm going to do this division first. That's 4 divided by 2. I'm going to keep that minus sign. That's really important. This minus sign gets carried down. It's 8 minus whatever I get from this. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now I can do the multiplication. So that's 3 times 5, that's 15. The plus sign gets carried down. Now I have subtraction and addition. Again, these are on the same level. We're going to work these left to right if it's just those two. So it's 8 minus 2, that's 6, plus 15 would give us a positive 9. Alright, so in number 2 we see that we have the addition out in front. This is a really common mistake, that you'll do this addition before you do the multiplication in between the 4.3 and the parentheses. So the big thing is that we know we're going to start in the parentheses, then we're going to do this exponent, and then after you're done doing all that, you just start forgetting about using PEMDAS. You want to make sure that you follow it at every single step. So we're going to start inside the parentheses, and we're going to follow order of operations inside of there too. So we have subtraction, and we have this exponent. We're going to do that exponent first. 3 to the third power is 27. 3 times 3 times 3. Then we're going to finish inside the parentheses by doing the subtraction. 27 minus 6 is 21. So we have multiplication here and an exponent here. We're going to do the exponent first. That comes first in PEMDAS. So that'll give us 441. We still have that multiplication, and we have addition. We need to do this multiplication first. Even though that's out in front, we still have to do this first. 4.3 times 441 is 1,896.3, and we add 4 to that, that's 1,900.3. Alright, on number 3, we see that we have two grouping symbols. We have brackets on the outside here with the square on the outside of that. We're going to do everything inside of there before doing the exponent. And we want to follow order of operations inside of there, so we're going to actually do the grouping symbol inside of there first. We're going to do 8 minus 6 before we do anything else. I actually didn't do it there, but I'm going to do it in the next step. 8 minus 6 is 2. Now we're going to do the exponent inside of there. We have multiplication here, an exponent, and then addition. So we're going to do that exponent. That's going to give us 8. Now we can multiply. That'll give us negative 16. And we'll finish inside the brackets by adding negative 16 plus 6 is negative 10. And the last step, negative 10 squared in brackets. We're allowed to do this in the calculator. If there were no brackets here, if there's no grouping symbol there, then the negative sign stays. If we have it in parentheses, it's negative 10 times negative 10 or positive 100. Number 4, we have a big fraction. We want to do everything on top and everything on the bottom, and then divide those two numbers. We can do those at the same time. I'm going to start by dividing on top and dividing on the bottom. This is multiplication and division. We're going to work that left to right. This one's addition and division. We have to do division first. So that gives us 6. This gives us 4. And we just have one step left on both the top and bottom. That'll give us 16 when we add, and give us 8 on the bottom when we multiply, and then divide. That'll give us 2. Alright, so number 4, we have a division problem out in front, then multiplication, exponent, subtraction, and another exponent. Let's work the exponents left to right. Alright, we're going to start by doing 9 to the second power. That'll give us 81. And I'm also going to do 2 to the ninth power to give us this 512. I know I'm not going to subtract these yet, so I'm able to do both of those at the same time. This division problem is really next. That'll give us 1.3 repeated. This is really important here. Let's keep that in our calculator. 4 divided by 3 gives us this decimal. Before changing anything in your calculator, just do that number times 81. It'll give you exactly 128. If you round this at all, it won't give you this exact number. If you even do 1.333 and fill the calculator with 3's, it's still not going to give you this exact number. Keep this exact decimal, 4 divided by 3, in the calculator, and then multiply it times 81. And now we can do the final subtraction. That'll give us a negative 404. On number 5, we have a grouping symbol here, and a bunch of other operations. I'm not even going to get to that yet. Let's just start with inside the grouping symbol. 1.2 times 10 to the second. We have to do that exponent first. 10 to the second is going to give us 100. That's just 10 times 10. We're going to finish inside the parentheses. That's multiplication. 1.2 times 100 is 120. We can't really do anything else inside the grouping symbol. We're going to add that 120 at the end. We have an exponent in the beginning. We have subtraction, addition, and multiplication here. We're going to do this exponent first. 10 times itself 4 times is 10,000. And now we can do the multiplication because all we have left is subtraction and addition. Other than that, that'll give us 24. Now we have subtraction, addition, addition. We're just going to work that straight across, left to right. The first subtraction will give us 9,840, and then we add all those up, and that's 9,984. That's our final answer. The next question is asking which of the following is going to equal 3. So after we follow order of operations on each of these, which one gives us an answer of 3? They might also use the word equivalent here. Make sure you understand that that really means the same thing, which is equivalent to 3. On the first one, we're going to add on the top, add on the bottom, and then divide those two numbers. We get 12 on top, 4 on the bottom, and lucky enough, that gives us 3, so that one works. The second one, we have a fraction here. That's really a division problem. That's what we're going to do first. 2 divided by 1 is 2, plus 10 is 12. That is not equal to 3. And the next one, we're going to divide first. 10 divided by 3 is 3.3 repeated. Plus 2 is still going to be a decimal. Obviously, it's not going to be 3, which is a whole number. So that's 5.33 repeated. That's not it. On letter D, we're going to add on top and then divide. That'll give us 12 on top. Divided by 2 is 6. Again, not equal to 3. The last one, we have a big fraction, which really represents division, and we have an exponent. Let's do the exponent first. 4 to the 0th power, actually anything to the 0th power is really just 1. You can test that in the calculator by using the y to the x key. And now we'll start in on that fraction. 10 minus 2 is 8. We'll divide that by 2. That gives us 4. And 4 minus 1 is 3. So the first one and the last one are equal to 3. Alright, so on number 8, we're going to determine the error that was made when evaluating the expression and then use order of operations to do it correctly. So let's just look at what they did. We have a grouping symbol here, and then inside of there, they did the multiplication first. They did 5 times 2, and they got 10, but that's actually the mistake. We really want to do the exponent first. We want to do 2 to the 3rd power to give us 8. Then we can multiply. That would give us 40. And we divide by 4 as our last step. That would give us a final answer of 10. Alright, so number 8, it's asking for the product of this number and this number. The product is really the multiplication problem between those two things. So we're going to multiply whatever this is times whatever this is. One really big important part of this is this negative 1 on the bottom squared versus this negative 1 on the bottom squared. Those are completely different things. We'll talk about that in a second. First, we're just going to follow order of operations. On the top of this one, we have to go from left to right. We have division and multiplication. So we're going to do that division first. That's 6. And we'll square this negative 1. When it's in parentheses, we can trust the calculator. Negative 1 squared is negative 1 times negative 1 or positive 1. And now we'll just multiply that out on top. That's going to be 12. And 12 divided by 1 is 12. On this second one, we're going to multiply 3 times 2 and then subtract that from 8. 3 times 2 is 6. And the bottom of this is different from this one because it's not in parentheses. That one is going to remain a negative 1. This is really just saying we're squaring the 1 part, and it's the opposite of that answer. It's the opposite of whatever you get from 1 squared, which is really just this 1. So that stays as a negative 1. Anytime there's no parentheses, that negative sign is just going to carry with the problem. Now we can do the subtraction. That'll give us 2 on top. 2 divided by negative 1 is a negative 2. And the product of those two answers, the multiplication between those, is negative 24. Number 10 is asking what is the value of that whole thing, which is actually very similar to this question. It's saying what's the product of this thing and this thing. So let's again follow order of operations on top first. I'm going to change those x's into dots instead. I don't really want to use x's for multiplication anymore because we're really going to use that as a variable. So I'm changing those to dots, and I'm going to square that 3 on top. And I'm also going to square the 2 on the bottom. So that changes to a 9. and that changes to a 4. Now we can follow order of operations on top. We're going to do this multiplication first. 9 times 7 is 72. And we're going to keep working on top there, do the other multiplication. 4 times 4 is 16. Now we can do the subtraction on top. That'll give us 56. So 56 over 4 times 2 over 7. There's a couple different ways we could solve this. We could figure out what 56 divided by 4 is, and then just multiply that times 2 divided by 7. All of that as decimals. We could do it that way. I want to multiply them as fractions. I'm going to multiply straight across. 56 times 2 is 112. 4 times 7 is 28. And just do that division problem to get us 4. Again, you could just change these decimals and multiply. You'd still get 4. Alright, from here I'm going to ask that you do the last 4 on your own. Please ask me for help. I want to help you if you need it. If you get stuck on anything, please ask for help.